Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, we get an update from LJ. So we had LJ on a few months ago, and she was doing really well for a fairly young blog of about 5 months. Now we're a few months later, and it's awesome. LJ hit over $3,000 in a month, and the site's only 9 months old. And I think, if I remember right, she has over 100,000 page views as well, or right around that point. So we're going to dig into the details and get a general update. So LJ, how's it going today?
Going great. Great to be here. Thanks for asking me to join you again.
Of course, yeah, always good to catch up. And yeah, can you share some of the details of, earnings and traffic? I know I just kind of spoiled the punchline for the last month, but maybe you could, take us along the way over the last few months, and then we'll talk about some other details.
Yeah. So the site is, 9, 10 months old now. I started at the beginning of 2022 on a fresh domain, and pretty much all the content is done by myself. But since our last update, a few things have happened. I do have a VA now helping me create some content. So that's adding to my expenses, but I also have been invited to Zoic Premium. So that $3,000, which actually totaled of $3,200 for gross for the month, is actually just under $3,000 of uh, 2,982 is the actual total. So last month was a big month, month 8. I did reach the 100,000 page views according to Google. Then this month it actually went down according to Google, but up according to Zoic. So I'm probably right around that mark. I know there's some discrepancies there.
Okay, cool. And what was the trajectory over the last few months? Was it fairly linear, or did it kind of jump up, both for revenue and traffic?
Yeah, so from the traffic perspective, it was growing, the first few months over 3x until like May, where we last spoke. Then it had doubled. Then it started to kind of slow down, and it's been a slightly more of a linear growth. But like I said, in the 8th month, I'm kind of sitting at a fairly consistent level. But in terms of revenue, it's been a little bit different. So month 7th, 7th and 8th were very similar. They both had, about 2,200 on the gross income, but I had a bunch of expenses, so it was a little bit lower than that. But I now feel like the stride, especially with premium, I'm now hitting over $30 EPMV. When I first started, it was, barely hitting 15. And as the site's been growing, like, even though I had about the same amount of traffic as last month, I basically increased it by
Wow.
50%. So it was a big jump in this last month in terms of the revenue.
Wow, that's one of the biggest jumps I've heard. So just adding premium, Ezoic Premium, like made the huge difference, right?
Yeah, so the premium was added, in June, but just something happened in September that even though the traffic was comparable, I add an extra $1,000
Cool.
to it.
Awesome. So let's back up a little bit. So I know not everyone watched the previous interview. We'll link up so people can go and check that out. But yeah, what's your story? Like, what do you do full time? How'd you get into niche sites, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I'm an engineer by training, and I work in pharmaceuticals. And I just always had that entrepreneurial desire and bug that I wanted to chase. And I had tried a number of different things, and it wasn't until, I discovered, maybe Passive Income Unlocked might have been one of the first ones, or a couple different channels just came across Income School, of course, and thought it could be something that I could be good at. I'm not the best writer, but I'm definitely thorough. And I certainly thought on that front, creating content, I could certainly create quality content and, just self teach everything else in terms of how to create the website, all the technicalities of it, but also the SEO side and topic research, keyword research, things like that. So it was about the end of last summer where I discovered this type of business. And, I had a site that I'll say failed. It was in a competitive niche at the end of 2021. And once I had kind of learned everything about that site, what went well, what didn't go well, I restarted this new one in January of 2022, and it's definitely been a better outcome than the one before.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's very interesting. You're only about a year in. You're working full time, so you're just doing this on the side, and you did say you had a site that was relatively, it didn't work out, but I mean, you learned a lot along the way. And then your second site, I mean, you're tracking along at a much faster clip, traffic wise, and definitely revenue than most people, even experienced people. In fact, one of my last sites, I'm not sure why it was hung up in the sandbox for so long, but it took like a year before I ever got significant traffic, and then another few months before it really started to take off. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it was more competitive than I thought. But yeah, very cool. Do you attribute any of your success to something specific? Your engineering background? Are you really obsessive about stuff and like you're spending a huge amount of time on this? I'm just guessing. I don't know. But yeah,
I do spend a lot of time on this. I will say that.
Okay.
It started off pretty much every single moment I had. I was either watching a video or writing or researching. It's definitely slowed down a little bit now that I have the VA. They're taking a tiny bit off my plate. But I'm still, the money's great for where I'm at. But if I were to actually have a, full-time job with the amount of hours I've put in, I would definitely be making more money. But
Right.
then, of course, I'd have 2 full-time jobs basically. So I'm definitely kind of learning to balance those two. But when it comes to these niche sites, there's always the effort side of things, and just how willing you are to try things, to fail, but also to pivot when things go well, and put in the effort with a bit of luck. There's always a little bit of luck in there. And I started out with like 3 kind of pillars sort of on the site, saw that one was working, and then just dove into that one. Once I had seen some traffic, even on like Bing and things like that, I said, I think this is probably the route to go. So this whole year, I'm almost kind of working on creating like, you can almost call it an encyclopedia, where it's just you're covering kind of everything. I'm at this point, I'm not even looking at the competition. I'm just focusing on getting everything into one giant resource, so that I'm gaining that authority on that information. So that's all I've been doing this month or this year. And I've been doing that since March or April. So I've just been cranking out the same type of content around these topics that I have. And
Okay.
and rolling with it. So,
And funny story. I have a site, the one that I was just mentioning, where it like didn't quite take off, and then when it did, similar to what you said, I had a couple different topic areas. One took off, and I thought, hey, I'm going to lean into that. Funny thing though, it's a very low EPMV. So in hindsight, I see like why advertisers wouldn't really give a shit. But when I was seeing the traffic numbers, I thought this is great. And it seems like low competition and there's like endless keywords. In hindsight, I see like, oh, well, it's not going to earn that much. I need to pivot back. In the long run, I think it'll work out. And it was good for me to like go through that. Now I have this story of a mistake that I made just months ago. And the thing is, I'll be able to move away from these informational topics. Now I have like 95% informational topics, and I can very comfortably add like more affiliate review content and not have to worry about any threshold or anything like that.
Yeah.
That said, we have been through a few Google algorithm updates in the last few months. What have you seen? Have you had any impacts?
Yeah, it's kind of been a wild ride. So, well, I changed my theme in July, and to my knowledge, I didn't have my robots.txt file set up correctly. So I was disallowing all the search engines from seeing my content. So that wasn't great. So I saw this huge drop off that I didn't think I would recover from. Fortunately, I saw it as it was happening. The day of, I saw the analytics and like something is up, something's not working. So I searched some of the terms that I normally rank for, noticed something was wrong. Took me a while to figure it out. And I made that fix. And a few days later, so in the span of a week, I, dropped down, it looks like 1.5 K to like 750, but then bounced right back up. So that was a non-algorithm update thing that happened. So fortunately, I did recover. I don't recall. I think there might have been an update at the beginning of August, if that's correct. I know there was the helpful content and then a September update. But ever since the beginning of August, in terms of Google traffic, I had till the beginning of September, I was on a consistent downtrend. I was at that 1.5K clicks per day down to 1.3. So it wasn't a huge difference, but it was definitely going down. Then at the beginning of September, whether or not that was a helpful content update, I shot back up to where I was getting, 2,000 clicks a day. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like my site's going to keep going up. Then the middle of September hits and I go right back down to that 1.3 range. And since the beginning of October, it's now slightly going down. It's only the last couple days where it might be coming back up. I still have the same amount of impressions. So my theory is that I'm just moving places on page one. So it's just impacting the click-through rate, but it must be from some type of core update because it's not like a sudden drop or increase like helpful content could do. And it's just Google maybe testing my content and maybe it overestimated, where it should rank my content.
Sure.
Because I'm still constantly adding new content, new keywords and things like that. So I'm really hoping it doesn't continue on that downtrend for the rest of the year, but it's possible. It could. But I'm going to continue with my plan of at least getting all that content out by the end of the year. Fortunately, I'm only getting 60% or so from Google. So at least there's still 40% that's from other sources. So even if I were to lose all the Google, I'd still have 40%. It's not great, but it's something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Where's that other 40% coming from? That's a pretty high percentage, by the way.
Yeah, so someone just commented that to me. That's the trend I've been seeing on my site. So it's very interesting that that's unusual. I'm getting, I get 13% from DuckDuckGo, which obviously from my perspective isn't great because it has really, really low, RPMs and EPMVs. We're talking like compared to the 30 I'm getting plus, from Google, it's like 1 or 2. So from that perspective, it's unfortunate. Then I have like a pretty big chunk that's around 9 to 10% of unknown. I don't know if that's referrals. My thought is it's referrals because I am backlinked on a few, like on Reddit and forums like that. So maybe it's just kind of combining all of them. But then about 10% from Bing, 4 from Yahoo, and then I get just over 2 from Canada Google. So that's how the distribution is right now.
Interesting. So it's all, relatively organic. You're not doing anything to get traffic from like YouTube or something like that.
Right. Yeah, it's all organic. It's just not all Google, which I guess is saving me from some perspective, from a traffic perspective, but from monetarily, from a money perspective, it definitely hurts. And that's why I think I saw such a big improvement in September is because that Google ranking, did seem to bump up for the middle of September.
Okay. And just to clarify, to make sure I understood, so the traffic that comes from Google goes to URLs that pay more typically? Is that kind of what's happening?
Well, just Google traffic it's independent of the link. It's just the traffic.
It's higher quality traffic.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Ezoic has a whole, whole document on all the different factors that go into it, including the browser they're using, obviously the search engine, device type, and I see on some of my pages I'm having almost an 80 EPMV because they're on desktop from Google. It's like really high, but that's a very specific person.
Right.
And I still think I have like 60 to 70%, I think, traffic coming from mobile. So that also keeps it a bit lower.
Got it. Okay, cool. And I didn't realize the robots file, like, I guess it got updated with your theme and then the theme didn't have the right information in there.
Yeah. It was had that / disallow on everything.
Why would they do that? That's
I
crazy.
I don't know, but that was definitely scary to say the least. Because here I'm thinking like, wow, Google did not like this new change. Thinking that just I made the change and nope, too bad.
Damn. Well, it's
So
cool. Good you caught it. Well, and that said, like from a psychological standpoint, now you're making, I mean, you were making good money before, but now you're making like very good money. Like,
yeah,
and anyone would be like, wow, I'd love to have an extra
yeah,
$3,000 per month. How
right.
nervous are you when you hear about the updates rolling out and it's like 2 weeks or whatever before it's all done? Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, I've gotten way better at it. Initially I would listen to these interviews and be like, how can someone just sit here and talk about losing 50% of their traffic and just say it is what it is? But now I kind of realize it. Like, to some extent, there is only so much you can do. And at this point, I think net I've made $9,000 on the site. So I'm like happy at least for where I've gotten to. That I'd love to grow it. My goal was ultimately to get just the $3,000 a month, and I've hit that. And now I just want to keep going. Selfishly, just want to keep growing the site and see what it can become. But I've watched enough and listened to enough interviews and YouTube channels and read enough to know that things happen. And even with this decrease over the last few days, I've definitely been a little bit bummed. It's not the same as getting hit to about 10% of your traffic, but it definitely hurts your morale. And for me, it's like the slow declines. Like, why? what can I do? And why is it continuing not to like my, like the content as I'm, publishing more? So I've been able to at least take a step back and still remember kind of where I started from when I was happy, when I was like, oh my God, I made a cent. And just like kind of remember where I started from and know, yeah, I've put in a lot of effort and it would be awful for that to happen. But I have at least gotten to a good enough point that I can, feel like it was a success. So if something does happen in the future, at least I've made it, made it this far.
Yeah.
But there is just a lot of sit and wait and hope for the best to some extent.
Yeah. And like you said, in a lot of ways, I mean, there's not really that much you could do. There's not much you can do. If you've like done your best so far and didn't do anything weird where maybe you like deserve it, then there's not too much you can do, especially in the short term. You can do stuff in the long term for sure. But yeah, when people are looking for like, I need to fix this with like the similar time frame as your robots file, like that's just not going to happen if you get hit with an algorithm update these days. Very, very unusual, I would say. So
yeah,
let's talk about your VA. So things were going well, growth was coming up. You're like, hey, I can buy back some time. What does your VA do for you?
Yeah, so my VA is pretty much a writer. And so I've mentioned previously, and it's going to make more sense in the future, but I use that, brand swapping technique that maybe some people are talking about, where you use a bulk of the same content, but you tailor it to a specific brand or item or something like that. So I've been writing kind of like that, the baseline document, and then she has that framework to then tailor that document for a new type of product or brand or of whatever we're talking about. So she's kind of gotten in a nice rhythm. I just have like this master list for her to kind of go down and update. I give her the resources she needs. So that's pretty much all she's working on. It's not really virtual assistant; it's more of a writer. But at the time being, that's what she's doing. Yeah, she's based out of the Philippines. She's a current student, so she does it, just part time when she has time outside of school, and she seems to enjoy it. She's been really good. I haven't had to. We don't meet all that frequently. She's, I picked a very good, very good VA, so she's happy. I'm happy, and
Cool.
yeah.
So, can you share how much you're paying her?
Yeah. So, pay her about $25 a week, and so about $100 a month. And she usually gets it ranges in terms of the hours. So I think the rate I'm paying her actually is $250 an hour, so it's definitely on the lower side. But yeah, she, depending on her school schedule and things like that, somewhere in the 5 to 10 hours a week.
Okay. Yeah, that is probably a decent amount of money for a student to work on, like, at their leisure. And it sounds like you don't have a set number of hours where, like, you have to do this. It's just like it's $100 a month, and, like, do what you can ish.
Pretty much. Yeah. She's very good at keeping in touch with me and letting me know when she's checked out. We have her keep track of her hours. And in terms of the content, I can't really, I figured even if she could get done 1/10 of what I get done by myself, it would still be a help and be worth it. Because the content wise, I'm not asking her to write a whole new article. It's really just, tailoring the information to that specific product. So she's already got a pretty good baseline. She's basically just switching out some information.
Okay. Cool. Where did you find her?
I think it's the online jobs. Yeah, .ph.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's one I use.
I've heard a lot about that, being pretty good, and people could find high quality folks. I've never used them, but I've heard good things. So, okay, cool. And you gave me a perfect segue. You mentioned the brand swapping stuff. So you have an interesting approach to content. Apparently, there's some folks doing this, but I wasn't familiar until I talked to you. So can you kind of go into a little bit more depth so people have an idea how you're able to essentially, like, it's kind of modular content that you could, like, reuse over and over again, and it just makes things a lot easier, right?
Right. Yeah. So the idea is you have a bulk of content, and let's say it's on how to
restring a guitar. Is that a good one?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That can work. So you have how to string a guitar. My guitar is actually sitting in the back. It looks very similar to that Sunburst one you have back there. It's probably a lot cheaper, but
yeah, I'm trying to. I'm like, can I see it? And if I'm going to put you solo for the people that are just listening to the podcast. Now we can't quite see it, but there's other stuff over there. All right. I'm going to come back here.
Oh yeah, okay. It's in
a case. Okay.
It's in a case. Yeah. So
we'll do show and tell later. Okay. Yeah. Keep going.
But,
sorry.
I don't know too much about brands, but the basics of how to restring a guitar are very similar, at least to my knowledge. Of course, there's acoustic, there's electric, there's bass, but generally speaking, they all have strings, and the mechanisms are fairly similar. So essentially, what you would do is, like, write one article on how to restring a guitar, but then you can have another article is how to restring a Gibson guitar. I know there's a bunch of different Gibsons, but that's the concept here. And most of the content is going to be the same. Most of the order of how you how you put the strings on, how you attach them are going to be the same, but maybe there's something with Gibson guitars that there's something slightly different on.
Like the tailpiece or like the bridge pins or something.
Yeah, something like that. So, but the bulk content is going to be the same. So what I do is I have that main article. I, copy paste it, literally copy paste it into a new article. And then the part that is specific to the brand, I think like I have a Mitchell, so you could write it on a Mitchell, guitar. And now you don't have an infinite number of articles, because at some point it's not worth your time to break down to every single model. But now, if you're going to get people in Google that are like, oh, how do I restring a guitar? But there are plenty of people that are going to look up their specific model, how to restring that one. And if you can tailor the content to that specifically, they're more likely to look and click on your traffic because you're focusing on their specific query. So that's kind of that's the concept there, is that you're gaining the same type of umbrella traffic, looking for someone to restring the guitar, but you're pinpointing more specific audience. So it kind of makes them also higher quality.
Okay. And some people may worry about like duplicate content or cannibalization. So what have you found in your experience?
Yeah. So in my experience, I've found that those people looking for the brand will find the brand article and nothing else. The overall query, so say restringing a guitar, it's possible that all of those could rank, but the likelihood of them ranking is low because they are specific to a type of guitar. It does have, I guess, it's probably somewhere in the 70 to 80% duplicate content in Google's eyes. Maybe that's why I'm seeing the decrease. I can't speak to if that's exactly the case, but to a human, the query of someone restringing, a Gibson or even a bass versus acoustic are two different people. And that's kind of how I approach it, is that the information they're looking for is specific to what they have in their hand or what they're looking to buy or something like that. So Google is going to treat it as such. That's my theory. I like to think that Google is starting to learn, kind of like a person.
Okay. And I'm curious, the like publishing velocity. So kind of switching gears just slightly, but because you're creating modular content, you were using the brand swapping idea. Conceivably, you could publish much quicker. So you started with a brand new domain. It was in an age domain. And then you were able to earn, pretty good money fairly fast. I think like $700 in the $700 in a month within like 4 months or so. Is that right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 months. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, how quick did you publish like your content?
Yeah. So my goal is to always hit 30 articles a month. At the beginning, I hadn't quite hit 30 because at the beginning time, I didn't discover this as being a possibility, I guess. So I was much slower in my content, but I've since April have been able to hit over 30 a month. And this last month, I cranked out a ton because I don't know if that'll hurt me, but I hit 65 this month, where I just bared down and wrote a couple of those pillar type posts and then applied it to the other.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been over 30 for, over half a year and over 40 for the last 3 months. And I do now have that VA who's giving me a few.
Okay. And the example that you gave was informational based, or, I fed you that, but can you do this with product based review type content?
So I don't have any review type content. So I should have mentioned this earlier. Something that caused a significant increase in my income this month is that I did much better with my affiliate. I joined a new affiliate program, but also my Amazon affiliates performed really well. So I do have affiliate content, but it's not that typical review. I have a couple verses, which I think I want to explore a little bit more, because I think they're less affiliate based, but the the customer that you get is someone who's looking to buy two different products. And if you find the right, the right keywords and the right products to review, I think that's a good way to go. And, on my site, I have one versus article, but the products I'm comparing are $1,000 each. And I think I've had 3 purchases of those items. It's only been a couple hundred visitors since I published it, but, with a 4% or whatever of a $1,000 purchase, it's not a bad chunk of change.
Right.
So I kind of want to explore that side a little bit more, considering I don't have any other supporting documents, articles kind of around that topic, and I still made like 120 off of it. I definitely would like to explore it more, but there are, for example, I am thinking of taking those 2 products in my verses and comparing them to new ones. And I'm going to copy over a lot of the same content that is from, all the information about the one product, add that to the other one, then add a new section with the new product. So it's not the same in that aspect. But my other affiliate content, I should have prepared a better example. I remember last time I was using the coffee, like the coffee cleaner example. But so let's say let's go back to restring guitars, see if I can think about it. So rather than the best guitar strings, I guess you could do this, the best guitar strings for a certain brand. There might just be general strings that are better for guitars than others. Again, I don't know enough to speak about it. You could probably speak about it more, but the general recommendations are probably going to be the same, but the rationale or, the specific brand you're talking about can be replaced. So it's definitely a strategy. And I do use that on my affiliate site, but it's, it's not a best of, it's more doing the research for someone else to find the specific product they're like a replacement part. Like say they're looking for, I don't know, is that called like a fretboard or
yeah there's a fretboard. Yeah.
So say they're looking for like a specific piece, they'll say, what fretboard do I need? Or I don't even know. I wish I knew more about guitars. I play a little bit, but I clearly don't know enough. So yeah, there might be some products that show up, but if you have a, more thorough article answering that question and finding the product for them on multiple sources and alternatives, that's where I think you can, kind of win over just a product. Because someone asking that question might not just be looking to click and buy. They might be wondering, why? Are there other alternatives? Is it cheaper? Is it more expensive to go a certain way? Are there other, other options?
Okay. Cool. That makes sense. And one example that I give, not for this, specific brand swapping idea, is if someone's looking for a blender, but someone's like the best blender for milkshakes and the best blender for protein shakes, it's like you could recommend the same blender and there'll be some similar ideas, but the framing and the context of everything is completely different. One is a dessert focused, the other is like health focused. So like you would write it differently, but kind of similar ideas. So, okay. Very, very interesting. And you did mention some amount of the content, like 70 to 80% of the content is sort of recycled across the site.
Yeah, recycled across like the pillar.
Okay.
And then there's somewhere between 5 to 8 brands or so for each of those pillars.
Okay. What do you think the potential of this site is? So you initially were like, $3,000 a month, that'll be amazing. So you're there. Do you have a bunch of keywords you can continue to go after? Like how big do you think the site can be?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I've been trying to figure that out. As I said, this year I'm trying to focus on kind of getting almost a full encyclopedia out on this topic, in which it covers all of the basic information that I'm looking for. There definitely is an unlimited, but at what point is it worth my time? I like to go for, relatively low effort, high reward. That's what everyone's looking for. But there's certainly an unlimited number of keywords I essentially could go with, especially with this brand swapping method. But I haven't really gone for anything under 200 or 100 according to any of these tools, like intentionally. I said I'm making this encyclopedia. The one of the main keywords in that pillar has really good traffic, but I'm covering kind of all the other brands for to be thorough and to see in Google's eyes that I'm kind of an authority on that topic. So I'm not expecting that every article I write is going to bring in traffic. I'm hoping that the ones that have the higher volume are going to bring in the traffic, and all the others I create with this brand swapping will bring in some traffic, but act kind of as an authority. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with that strategy by the end of the year. I do think it's possible. It certainly is possible, especially if like rankings can go up to at least reach like 250,000 a month. But I didn't think I pigeonholed myself with my domain, but there is a branch in like the same overarching niche that I kind of want to dive into that doesn't quite fit. So I actually have started just a couple of weeks ago, like a second site that's basically in the same umbrella niche, but really can focus on that, what seems to be like an untapped niche, I guess. So I can certainly take this niche and expand and branch it out more. But at one point, is it going to be worth my time to keep writing the content? I'm not entirely sure. I think at the end of the year, I'll know.
Okay.
Know a little bit better.
Do you think you could hit like 10 or 15K a month?
It would be nice. I think a lot of the content that I am missing, since so much of it is informational, even my affiliate content is, fairly informational. I'm finding what they need, but I'm like, oh, here it is. So you don't have to go look for it. That's kind of all I'm getting on the affiliate side of things. So my thought is at the beginning of next year, I'm going to focus more on the affiliate type content and maybe focus on those $1,000 items. And the traffic's not going to be nearly as high. The article I had it's only gotten like 200 clicks, but I've made, 3 sales already. That if I can, tap into those type of queries, then I probably will be able to get more, reach maybe that 10K where it's not solely coming from, it's not solely coming from ads now, but I think it'll be mostly an affiliate push that gets me to like a 10,000 a month.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I interviewed a guy named Jamie recently from increasing.com, and he focuses mostly on the affiliate side, and his traffic is, fairly modest for the amount that he makes. And yeah, it's completely different worlds when you're looking at display ads versus someone who has a pretty pure sort of affiliate site. So, okay, cool. That covers a lot of the content approach. Link building. Have you done any link building, or are you just focusing on content?
So I'm still focusing on content. Oddly enough, according to Google, for some reason, it had only said the previous month and month 8, I had 366, external links pointing in. This month I had 1.4 thousand. I have no idea where that jump came from. And if it's legitimate at all. And this is something that someone advised me I can dig deeper, but I actually have a link itself from google.com, and I have no idea what that means. I've never seen that before. And I'm like, well, shouldn't that be a good sign? Like, shouldn't I be first on everything if they're linking back to me? But yeah, someone said I could dig deep in Google Search Console to figure out what page is coming from. I have no idea how. I haven't done a very good job digging into that, but no active link building, but they're growing.
Okay.
They're growing. They're not high quality. So, I
Yeah.
mean, they're not low quality, but they're
They're just
what
normal
you'd
links.
expect. Yeah.
There's probably, I mean, I think all sites that get traffic end up with like a pretty healthy amount of like spammy links that are just nonsense.
Yeah.
And my hunch is your google.com link is probably like a Google blog thing that is a spammy site. That's my hunch. I don't know what your site is. Maybe someone did link to it, but there are, I don't know
Um,
what they're called. It's like do you know what I'm talking about? Like Google blog, something like, I don't know.
I don't.
Okay. Well, someone can correct me in the comments or something. But yes, I think it's like a free like platform where you can create a blog. It used to be maybe it's similar to like Blogger or something like that. But I think that is something. So anyway, you could check it out. It probably doesn't matter too much. All right. So no link building, making good money. You're gonna keep publishing, 30 plus articles per month until the end of the year, and then sort of reassess. What else is coming up for you on the site? Any other big plans?
On this site, it's just, yeah, getting to the rest of that, so the end of the year, kind of covering that full like encyclopedia, I basically have said. So no other major changes. I am making that other new site, um, which is kind of like a sister site almost. So that may help, that may hurt. I just don't feel comfortable expanding into um, into the niche under the same domain. I've put a couple articles in there. They're doing okay, but I think there's enough that I'll just make an entirely new site. It allows me to diversify. Yes, it's going to, slow down the trajectory, I guess, because it won't have that authority. But I have wanted to at least make another site. It's going to have some similarities between what I'm currently doing. So I'll already have kind of a heads up in terms of what I'm looking for. But yeah, nothing. I'm just really hoping that the traffic bounces back up a
Yeah,
little bit from Google.
I hear you. All right. Well, I will, in a second, I'll ask you to share where people can follow along. But for people that want to kind of replicate your success, especially like $3,000 per month after 9 months, pretty healthy amount of traffic. You've put a ton of time into it, so we can't discount that at all. But what advice would you give someone who's maybe like on the very early end of working on their site?
It's a good question. It is hard when you base it off of more or less one success. I only have one under my resume. I think I've said this before, but kind of certainly putting in the effort, but not just blindly, putting effort with purpose, in terms of making the content that is worth your time, has enough volume. Because I mean, if I didn't have this brand swapping technique, it would be taking me and I already spend enough time. I wouldn't be able to write any articles. Because I mean, they still take time to update that extra like 30% content. You still have to do the research and make the necessary changes. But completely starting from scratch takes a really long time. So you want to make sure that what you're writing for is not necessarily going to rank, because you're not entirely sure, but you want to at least make the effort into what could potentially give you a good return. So whether it's an affiliate type content, writing it, if it's a lower end, less expensive product, you need high volume to make up for that. But if you're writing affiliate content on an expensive product, you don't need a ton of traffic to potentially convert. So it's just thinking about, how much effort you're putting in, I think, is going to yield the reward, and kind of look at some early signs. Of course, Doug already mentioned that he kind of went and leaned into, part of a site that didn't really, yield the return. But I would still have told him to lean into it since it was showing him success. And it still was just on the money side. It just wasn't providing the returns. So a lot, and I'm going to make a video on this soon, but really thinking about the strategy of your business, how you're going to make your money. Does traffic, really matter? Is it better to go for, say you go for something that's 80,000, searches a month. Even if you're on page 3, you're still going to get some traffic. I've found that with some of my content. It's like I'm nowhere near the top. I'm not even targeting the keyword, but some of my other content is still ranking for it. 3rd page plus, I'm still getting some clicks for it. So, if that were an affiliate type site, it may be worth it. So really think about the strategy you're going for. If you're going for, low volume, high income, you'll probably go on the affiliate side, but try to focus on products that are, more expensive and can give you some type of reward. But if you're going for the ad side, you need to have enough search volume. And it definitely takes some time to find those right keywords. But I haven't found much success. And some people have, writing about the 0 search volumes and things like that. But for most of the articles that say 100, 200 a month, they're getting way less than that. So I personally will go after the higher volume that have, some competition, but focusing is, if you're going to go on the ad side, to look at the quality of those top articles, because that's kind of what drew me in to what I'm writing about now. Is I researched it. I said, these do not seem like they'd answer exactly what I came to look for, and I'll have all the information I need. So it's not just about competition, it's also about quality. So thinking about those 2 aspects, why you're writing, who you're trying to get to your site, and making sure if it's successful, will it be worth your time?
Awesome. LJ, where should people find you?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, Blogsprout. So hopefully you link to it. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Linked it below. But I do have a website as well, blog-sprout.com, because regular Blogsprout was taken. So that's new, but that's pretty much just where you can find all my videos, my contact page. I do have contact form and my email listed on those 2 places if you want to reach out. But I do also respond to every comment that's made on any of my videos, at least like them if they're just a comment. So I am pretty active on there. And I definitely appreciate when people make comments, because they bring up things such as the Google traffic. I didn't realize that 60% was relatively low for, general organic traffic. So I learn a lot from you guys as well.
That's good. Yeah, we'll link up so people can get to it. And then you have a monthly report. So if people want to kind of follow along, month by month, you started at the beginning, right? So people can track from like month 1, 2, and whatever, right?
Yep. My plan is to continue with that. And with the sister site, I also plan to make ones for that.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, Doug. Nice talking to you.